Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here for Popternative, speaking to JB Tadena about season 2 of Kung Fu, which recently premiered on the CW. Thank you so much for your time. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, it's so exciting. I mean, you know, you're cast for Kung Fu, a show that does really well for season 1. It's announced that you're coming on board for season 2. What's the mindset for you where you're joining a show that had a very successful season 1, but leaves it off for season 2 where there is so much kind of unanswered questions? Like, what's that mindset like for you?
It's a bit intimidating.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got some big shoes to fill. You want to come in there and, you know, join the group and be like, hey, I belong kind of feeling. But everyone was just so great. And as soon as I even just was cast,
Yep.
They immediately called me. They were super welcoming. They were like, hey, we're going out. And everyone would just get along super well. And it made it a lot easier to transition and be comfortable day one on set.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I always feel like that's like an interesting situation, right? Where you're joining a show that's already established. People
Right.
know each other.
And people
it's like
got
almost
their favorite characters
Yeah.
already. You're like, oh, they're going to throw in this extra guy. Who cares? But the reception's been great. I'm super excited.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, I saw it on social. Man, you know what's really cool is like the new characters that got announced for season 2, like right off the bat, people are like loving it so far.
Yeah. I mean, that's the great thing about like fans in general and like the fans of the show is that,
Yep.
you know, when something sounds interesting, they're just like already developing all sorts of theories and trying to figure out like what this like character means to them and what it means for the future of their favorite characters. So it's pretty cool to watch.
The show does a really good job of the obvious, you know, kung fu elements, the action, the fight scenes, but also has a lot of heart, has a lot of kind of storyline with family and a lot of that as well. And I'm curious if you notice that where
Absolutely.
you have a tale of two shows, right? Like where kung fu, it's in the title, it's there, you're gonna get all the
Yeah.
action fans, but the family component is like really, it takes over a lot of times, I find.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think the formula for a good show is like you do want those like really exciting moments, but at the end of the day, you really care about the people
Yeah.
and the characters. So, you know, whoever it is that's in this cast that's your favorite. And when the writers develop these great storylines for them, I think that's what and the chemistry between everybody is just fantastic. So it just makes it even the more potent.
Is this a cool interview for you where it's like you're doing interviews now where like at least some people have seen like one episode of season 2 where it's like, you know, you're doing all these interviews like
It's finally fun to have like one out there. It's like, okay, so now they kind of have an idea like what they think of Sebastian.
I did interviews for shows where, you know, the cast members saw like clips but not the whole thing, but I got access to like the screeners like 2 months before it was airing.
Oh, 2 months.
And 2 months. And it was the strangest thing to like keep them banked or like not say certain things.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so the interviews like before an episode airs, it's like I can barely say anything.
And it's
like,
weird because people want things out a certain time, right? So
Yeah.
you have to be strategic with that too, right? Like if they want it out for the premiere, like you can't say, and if it's a show that drops weekly, like you can't.
Exactly. And I don't know when they're dropping the interview. So I'm like, is this going to be in time or is it going to be already too late to talk about?
Is it one of those things where, you know, you're doing these interviews and people are bringing it up? I mean, does it start to kind of hit you that you're on like a really popular show? Is it kind of like a strange feeling sometimes? Like
It's a bit strange. Yeah. Because, I mean, a lot of the shows I've done in the past have just been procedural television. So it's just like kind of not as serialized and the characters aren't as important to them. But yeah, it's cool to watch this unfold. And I'm just living in the moment.
100%. I'm so happy for you and the cast. And you do some voiceover work as well.
Yes.
And I think the best thing about voiceover work is you could just go do your voiceover work in a hoodie or like PJs, right?
You
Like,
go in your sweats, like, and you just work for an hour or two, and you're done.
Video games, movies, TV shows. It's really cool to see that you've been able to kind of do voiceover work and all those things. I feel like it's kind of becoming. Is it the norm that people are kind of getting their voice lent for all the different things, or
I think a lot of people, more so name actors, would do both.
Yeah,
in both worlds, just because of the recognition. But during the pandemic, all of live TV kind of took a back seat, and the only work that was available was voiceover work. So everyone I know from in this community just started doing voiceover work, and I think a lot of more opportunities became available, especially with diversity and all that stuff, where they're trying to make a push for
100%, yeah,
for parity. So like, it's cool that everyone's getting a chance to jump into that world.
Have you seen some of the IMDb pages for some of these voice actors?
It's like, oh, this guy's worked on 1,000 things.
I'm like, you're not joking when it's like 1,000 things. Like, I bet if you go and count. One episode of My Little Pony, an episode.
One episode of My Little Pony, 870 of Naruto.
That was a good segue. I was gonna bring it up. Anime is so popular, though, man.
It's so popular.
I feel like it's just been. Is it weird? It's weird though, eh? Like comic book culture, anime culture. When I was a kid, like I would be teased wearing like a Spider-Man shirt. Now I'm like the coolest kid at school. It's still weird to me seeing all that. That's popular culture. I'm just gonna say it.
Popular culture at this point. Yeah. It is a little weird that it's just developed into a mainstream thing, and to still feel like it's a bit close to the vest, that these really nerdy things back in the past. But I think it's great that it's opening up to.
I mean, like for the comic book culture stuff. I mean, the biggest movies by a landslide.
By a landslide. There's You either have comic book movies, and then you have everything else.
Like, there's no. I don't know. Yeah, me, I love I'm just excited too, like for Sonic 2 coming out. Like, I'm a big Sonic guy, so just seeing that, like.
Was that the last movie you saw before the pandemic too?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what? Yes, it was.
Yeah.
That's hilarious that you said that.
Yeah.
I remember going, oh man, because that was like 2019, right?
It was 2019. It was like one of the last movies. That and Onward were like two like animated like movies, and I think those were the last two movies people saw in the theaters.
You said Onward. Are you like trying to get me to plug your other projects like Raya the Last Dragon? Like, what are you doing?
That was the last movie I saw, and Sonic. Yeah.
And then there's Raya the Last Dragon that you worked on. I see what you did there, JB. I was smooth. You obviously go where the opportunities are. It's pretty cool to kind of look on it and look at all the different spectrums of work and the worlds, and even for the voiceover stuff, so many different things. Call of Duty, Naruto, Raya the Last Dragon, like so many different things. Do you ever think about the fact that you've been able to kind of work on a lot of different projects, or is it kind of just something that happens? Like, what's that like for you?
I think as an actor who's not, huge, like most actors are in a journeyman state where they're going from project to project, and then you wait a while before the next thing comes up. So I think if you have fun in other avenues, like doing voiceovers or doing a big YouTube project, you just got to find the things that excite you, and like if there's work available and you're willing to do it, then go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I feel like actors and storytellers are just going to go where the opportunities go. But then like you look at some people that kind of have their thing, right? They have the thing, like their genre.
I'm only going to do films.
Well, not even I'm only going to do films. I feel like people just like, I have a lot of friends that they just get cast in comedies, man. And they're like, I would love to work in other things.
When you get like typecast, and you do the first handful of things you do as a certain character, because like the first things I did, I played Filipino, like not Filipino American. So I had an accent in half the things. And when, I finally book a job where I could just be myself, I'm like, oh, wow, this is different. So like, I see where you're coming with your friends that are always booked in comedies, because that's probably what,
but they're not even that funny. Sorry, okay.
But sometimes the best comedians are like the best dramatic actors too. Like Steve Carell's an incredible dramatic actor.
Oh,
like
so
Jim
good.
Carrey. Yeah.
It's Sonic.
Sonic. Yeah. It's like that guy's been like Eternal Sunshine to doing Sonic, and it's just crazy.
There's been so many. Yeah, for me, like for my favorite Jim Carrey movie was Liar Liar, where he had to tell the truth.
Oh,
you remember that?
A classic.
Yeah, so good. It's interesting too, the comedy thing, like stand-up comedians and everything. I mean, have you worked with a stand-up comedian before on a show or a movie or a project?
I have not, but where are you going with this?
Well, no, I'm just asking, like, it's because you brought up like comedy typecast and everything, and you were talking about like the drama actors and everything. There's a lot of, like, I interview a lot of comedians on my show and everything, and that's just got a whole different world. Like, I feel
I have no idea what that world is like. I have no interest in going into that world because I've gone to some stand-up and seen people bomb. I'm like, that might be the worst thing I've ever, like, experienced, their secondhand embarrassment where you're just kind of tensed up.
Where do you think I was going with that question? Was I going to ask you if you wanted to?
Well, no, because I've been in a casting room, like helping out a casting director friend, and I've seen some like stand-up comedians, and it's like they're doing their act.
Yeah, and it's not even. Yeah. Well, no, it's just I did an interview with a stand-up comedian, and I brought up like hecklers, and I think it probably was the worst time because he did a show like the night before my interview where like apparently he like got into it with a heckler, and he just went like 0 to 100 on my interview. He's like, you know what, these hecklers, I can't stand these guys, just going off. And I'm like, and I asked him, like, this seems like really fresh. He's like, yeah, it happened last night, so thank you for reminding me. And I'm like, I didn't know, I'm sorry.
I had no idea.
But it's also, at the end of the day, right? Like music, voice acting, comedy, you're all storytellers. Like, I'm just going to put you in like what, you're all storytellers, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What's your favorite thing about being a storyteller, JB?
Oh, wow. I mean, for personally myself, it is in the exploration of like different characters.
100%.
And I think it's helped me develop like an empathy just as a person, creating characters from all walks of life and just experiencing them, like being in their shoes. And on the flip side of that, it's seeing the reactions from people and like what your work means to them, and like if they relate to a character you've created. I think that's like one of the most fulfilling things, like genuinely.
So amazing. No, that's such a good point as well. Stories also that we're not really told are finally getting told. I think that's my favorite thing about storytelling.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great that recently there was a critic who panned the new Disney movie coming out for being unrelatable because it's about a young girl and it's
turning red,
story turning red. And it's like Kumail Nanjiani had this little clip on a talk show where he was like, I've watched white men my entire life and I related to their stories. Now you can watch me and like relate to me. It's not that hard. And, any coming of age story, anybody can relate to because those changes are so universal.
100%. No, it's so true. Yeah, the movie wasn't even out yet, and that just exploded the intrigue.
Exploded, and I was like, well, you deserve the dragging. I'm sorry.
100%. And JB, thank you so much for coming on Popternative. It was so great chatting with you.
Yeah, it was great chatting with you.
So Kung Fu Season 2, we're just getting started, man.
We're just getting started. It's going to be a ride, and everyone should stay tuned. It's great.
On the CW. And where can people follow you on social media to keep update with everything?
You can follow me at JB Tadena, both Instagram and Twitter. It's actually spelled out as Jaybee because there's some other than JB.
There's a JB Tadena there already.
So I had to just spell out the letters JAYBETADENA.
Amazing. Well, this has been Popterna, youtube.com/Popterna for previous episodes. You're going to be able to catch JB Tadena in season 2 of Kung Fu, which is currently on air now on the CW. Until next time, this is JB and Petey Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.